Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And today we're going to be taking a look at the new Spirit Master 3.5 anniversary, the Amber Avenger Jaune. So she is the second to last character to come out for the Spirit Master team, and she is directly supporting them in a few different ways. She is space. She's on Spirit Master, Primal Demon, Warrior's Mind, and Exalted Champions. Uses a space sword. If I call her dark in this video, know that I'm not meaning to. She just has a very dark outfit, and it screams dark element, but she is space. Her ult is a support ult, so it's not going to do a lot of damage, but she's double buffing again. Spirit Master and Primal Demon, permanent weakness strike. And 25% is the base level. I don't put any rocks in her or any meaningful dupes. But her first skill is an all-element attack, so no matter what element you are, you're going to get 100%. And then Aegis Power is the new buff that VELZARD has, but you need VELZARD to activate this, because VELZARD has Aegis Rate. Her second skill is an interesting one that we're going to have to take a look at on a few different teams. But essentially, it boils down to, if you send 6 orbs in a turn, you're guaranteed to get X amount of gauge and X amount of skill points. And if you were to send 5 orbs in an ult, you would not get that same amount because the ult doesn't count as an orb. It counts as its own little ult orb itself. So it doesn't get like the massive buffs that other orbs get. But what the skill is going to do is make it so it's going to act like specifically a blue orb, while also giving it 50% extra ult gauge. So it's a bit confusing. I will show it off in practice, though, right now. Alright, so here we are, turn 5 in Beatdown Battle. The blue orbs currently have its maximum 500% skill point increase. Alright, let's just use a few buffs here just to get us down to, like, very, very low point levels. So, boom, boom. Okay, so we have 0 protection gauge. We used 2 stacks of her, we're down to 50 points. A full send of fully buffed 500% blue orbs is going to give us 293 skill points and about a little over 1.5 protection gauge. And that's what you want on a blue stacking team. You want all these skill points from the blue orbs. You want all the protection gauge because of the attack stacks that you're getting with the protection character. But if you don't send 6 blues and you instead send 4 blues and 2 ults, or 5 blues and an ult, it becomes not as good. So let's see that in action now. So let's go ahead and just use a stack here, and we're going to get a little bit back from the trait, but let me cut and we'll show you. Hold on. Okay. I just cut out a lot of the fluff, but so we've used the 1 stack of the hero, so we've got 3/4. We're down to 46 skill points. We have 5 blues and an ult, but remember that the last turn we got 293 skill points. And if we do this now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're getting 244, which is not as much. It's not very far away from 293, but it's not 293. And it changes even more if we bring in a second ult character. And this is the problem that people have had with support ults, especially on stacking teams, is that by sending the ults, you're losing a lot of protection gauge. You're losing a lot of... Now we're losing like 100 skill points. We're sending a full hand, but these ult orbs, they're not blue. They're not getting the 500% skill point increase. They're not getting the extra protection gauge increase. They're just in the way. So while we do get the weakness strike stacks from VELZARD and Jaune, we are severely losing out on skill points for the next turn, possibly the Nuke turn if this would happen on turn 7, and we're not getting the maximum amount of protection gauge, because before we brought VELZARD in, we were still going to get a double stack of the hero, and now we're not. So by using the Jaune skill, it now is going to create the ult orb in a way that makes it act like the rest of the blues. So it has this little blue icon now, and now if we send it, we are getting the 293. We are getting the full double stack of the hero. And that's what that skill is meant to be used for. It's supposed to continue the trend of stacking blues without interrupting the skill point gain and the protection gain, while still getting the weakness strike stacks from the individual ults. That way, when you get to turn 8, you hopefully have maximum skill points, you have a lot of weakness strike stacks on your nuking Leon, without having to sacrifice a butt ton of points and maybe 2 or even 3 stacks of the hero because you're too busy sending ults. And this team gets a lot of ult gauge because the hero gives you 50% every turn. So you're going to have a lot of ults. This mitigates that problem. And I guess since we're here, we'll just go ahead and watch Jaune's ult. That way we can say that we got it in the video. But that is her kit. That's the point of that second skill. And it does work on specifically blue teams. Does it work on other teams? Just because you can change an ult orb and make it feel like a blue doesn't mean it's the best thing in the world. It is the same ult animation that we got out of the current event, the Elemental Armaments. So, I mean, if you watch that ult, you've seen this ult. It's nothing different. But I just want to give you an in-battle example of why that skill is important. And, you know, while we're here, we can just finish out the showcase on her own team, right? This is the Spirit Master team. You know, it's with Ritas, but it's not meant to be the super tryhard team. But we are showcasing her in her best setting, which is in her own beatdown battle with the other Spirit Master units. So let's just keep going, and we'll nuke next turn. But I mean, you saw how the last few turns went. You stack with blues. Jaune really helps you out. We've used her skill again, so now when we take out Leon and we bring in, say, Ritas and use her convert, we don't have to use the ult swap because she only converts earth units and Leon is in the back. And we want to send these ults because we want that stacking weakness strike. Let's bring Blanc in, that way we can put her big-time damage buff on early. Boom. Now that's on Leon, so now we can send this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're getting the 293 skill points back, we're getting as much protection gauge as possible with this current team build, and we're set up so on turn 8 we have almost a full capacity of points and another stack of the hero, whereas if we didn't use that skill, we would not be anywhere close. We'd be 100 points short. We'd be down to 337, which, depending on your team build, could actually impact you in negative ways, because that 100 points that you're missing might be a big-time buff. It might cost you a 90-point skill, because you're missing those. And that's why it's important on blue stacking teams. So we've already used Blanc's skill. We don't need to have her up front anymore. Ritas doesn't do anything for our damage output. So let's just go ahead and do this, and then we'll go ahead and use his buff, and her buff, and her buff, and the stun, and we'll be looking pretty good. So, in this example, did we have enough points to actually use Blanc's skill on this turn? Yes. But if we had brought another character, maybe not Ritas, and not used Blanc's skill early, we would have been short by enough for one skill point, and that would have been even worse had we missed out on an extra 100 skills. So we could do this and make a full hand of blues. That works perfectly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. And so here, 2.6 million. Alright, not very much, but she's a support ult. We're doing 860,000 damage on that hit. Leon on his 200% orb does 5.6 million damage. And then his ult does 73 million. So when you combine the power of Jaune's second skill being able to get you maximum gauge on blue ults, while also giving us that extra element buff and the Aegis power, means that we are now shooting back up into an acceptable range for a single target nuker. In my opinion, it's still fairly low, but we also normally probably wouldn't run Ritas. We'd run another damage support to really up our damage output. But Jaune works on a blue stacking team, and her buff, her first buff, the element and the Aegis power, it works with VELZARD. If we did not have VELZARD, we would not have activated the 100% Aegis power, because no one would have Aegis rate. So in that case, we would have just gotten the element buff, which I mean is cool, but it would have drastically lowered our damage output. Jaune needs VELZARD to operate. VELZARD is the only character in the game that has Aegis rate right now, so the two must be paired together in order for Jaune's full power to come out. Alright, let's put her on the Primal Demon team with 3 of her. Earth Jaune, Space Jaune, Space Jaune, Visions of Coleus Jaune, Spirit Master Jaune, Primal Demon Jaune. And there's no VELZARD. So we're not going to get that Aegis power. But this is still a blue stacking team. It's still going to have some of the same issues. Maybe not all of them, because this isn't like a support alt team. This is 8 months prior to the 6.5 months prior to that being a thing. But what it does have is really, really shitty orb RNG and a really, really bad alt swapping character in Misery, because she only changes one. So, in the event that you correctly swapped Diablo's alt, fantastic, great, love to see it. But what happens with the other alt? What happens if I don't want to use another Misery convert? Well, I guess you're SOL most of the time. But we can still use Jaune's second skill and make back those points while also sending Misery's ult or someone else's ult, except Diablo, because we're going to try and hold his ult because he's the nuking character. Okay, that's not really a great hand, but we can work with it. Let me cut ahead until we can get to that kind of example. All right, let's see how this turn plays out. We're on turn 7. We're right there at the nuke turn. We have an ult for Diablo and an ult for Jaune. First, let's see what happens here. Please. Oh, okay. Well, didn't quite go how I wanted it to. Maybe this isn't the best team to showcase because there are no support ults. This skill, I think, is very, very important for support ult teams more than old stacking teams that you would just hold or you would just send the ult and get it out of there. But I guess at least for this clip, we can showcase the minimal amount of power that we're going to have here. So let's go ahead and take Misery out since she's not doing anything, and let's use Jaune's buff skill. So this is giving us 100% element attack. So Space Diablo is getting 100% space attack, and Earth Jaune is getting 100% earth attack. Okay, fine. We are missing the Aegis power, so unless we get really, really, really lucky and we hit the natural part of that, we're not gonna be fully benefiting from the new Space Jaune. In fact, she's not really done much at all for this team, because we haven't even used her first skill, because we hadn't had to. And I think that goes to show. I don't know how well Jaune is going to operate on older teams that specifically don't have support ults. I know that we're out of that realm, that time period of the game at this point, but still, I mean, these teams are still relevant-ish. Like, they're around. Diablo does 4 million damage. Is that enough to clear the fight? Yeah, certainly. Could we have done the same thing, if not better, by bringing the new Blanc instead? Oh yeah, that would have done a lot more than 100% element damage. Because we're missing half of the skill. If we had the 100% Aegis, even without the resistance down, if we just had the Aegis rate and Aegis power, we would have done probably 6 million damage right there. Like another 30% on top. And that would have been really, really good. It would have been better. Did it need to be better? No. No, it did not. But it could have been. And everyone likes to see big numbers. So, I'm sure that some people will say, but hey, if you have Jaune and if you have VELZARD, you could put them on the Warriors Mind team, and it'll work great. And to that, I would say, you're almost correct. Because Jaune will give us the element buff. She's not going to give us the Aegis power. Why is that? Because the Warriors Mind 2.0 team is a speed team, and specifically in Jaune's kit, increases Aegis power for charge-type characters. Charge. Blanc, Gabwa, Violet are not charge characters. So, we have the full buffs. Like, we are holding on to everything we could possibly use on this team. I know I didn't show you the run, but this is an example. We have Weakness Strike. We have the element buff from Jaune. We have the Dark Attack. We have the Aegis rate from VELZARD. Not the Aegis resistance down, because we don't have enough, we can't use that many points on this turn. So we're missing that debuff. But we have the Aegis rate. And we've used the Jaune skill because we have the element buff. But what Blanc is missing is the Aegis power. Because she's a speed character. So the big time nuking character that you want to give Aegis power to, you can't. Because she doesn't fit the conditions. And that is another problem I have with Jaune. Aegis power for charge-type characters. Not only do you need VELZARD to activate Aegis rate, you need to be a charge character, which there are a lot of, but right now our big-time damage dealing character is a speed unit, so she's never going to see this buff. Ever. Like, no matter what you do, she can't get it. You could give it to Freerin or Fern or something. We showed that off. Yeah, that's fine, but they're charge characters. No defense characters are going to get this. No speed characters are going to get this. And so, while we have Aegis, it's like, yeah, cool, whatever. We got the element buff. Do we actually kill here? I actually am unsure if we can do that. Okay, still 14 million. So, I mean, at least we can kill. The element buff in the Aegis rate did something, but we would have done even more had we had the Aegis power. But there's just no physical way we can do that on our primary big mommy damage character. And that is what is also unfortunate, and that restricts Jaune even more. So we look at it, and we filter by... not that. We filter by charge type units. Okay, these are all the charge type characters. There are some heavy hitters in here. We have the Space Blanc. We have the Divine General Blanc. We have Freerin and Fern. We have Hinata. We have a lot of other characters, Blanc and Leon and all that. All these characters are going to get that Aegis power, as long as you have VELZARD. But no one else, none of these characters, speed, defense, and neutral, none of these characters are ever going to get the full power of Jaune. And that, I'm not a big fan of. I'm a big fan of Blanc because she buffs literally everybody in the game. I do not particularly care for characters with super heavy restrictions on their skills. I would consider Jaune a pretty heavily restricted character. You must summon for a different unit to activate it, and it only hits a third of the game. So in that aspect, after everything is said and done, Jaune is a luxury character. It's nice to have. She will work when you find ways to put her on a team that can utilize her skills effectively. Do you need to put her on the team, though? And to that I say no, because you can probably replace her with somebody else, and maybe your damage output won't be nearly as good, but it's still probably good enough to clear like 90% of the game, 95% of the game. Maybe not Inferno beatdown battles, maybe not maximum scores on Jubilees, but I promise you, you could probably replace this character with someone else and get pretty decent results still. So, Jaune is good in very specific scenarios. Outside of those scenarios, she's kind of just a waste of space. Especially if you don't have VELZARD. And I'm going to keep saying that for the longest time. Until we get another character that gives Aegis rate, it's only VELZARD. And you gotta have her if you want this. And you gotta be a charge character if you want this. And this skill, I mean, yeah, we showed off that it can work on orange teams, it can work on blue teams, you can force it to work. But I'm not going to bring Jaune on all those teams if I'm only getting half of her skill. I'd rather just bring somebody else who I'm going to get 100% of their kit out of. So, let me know what you guys think of this Jaune. I feel like this was a pretty good showcase for her because it did show off her true power and her potential. But also it did show off her limitations, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give people the full picture. Yeah, you can use her and she can look good. Yeah, you can use her and it won't look very good. Full package. So again, let me know what you guys think of this Jaune. Am I being too harsh on her? Am I overselling her maybe on her premium teams? Are you just not that impressed by her? Let me know your thoughts, but that's it from me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.